Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host, Maqbool, with you at PTV WORLD. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the political scenario of the country. We know, of course, that the NS session was scheduled to be held today, but it got delayed within minutes after its start, and it has now been adjourned to 3rd of April on Sunday. The no confidence motion tabled by the opposition was done so on the 28th, Monday, and voting is expected on the 3rd of April within 7 days of the no confidence motion. How the situation actually proceeds till then is still a big question mark. With regards to the NS session today, the topic was one of the topics of discussion was, of course, the Prime Minister's no confidence motion. However, that did not happen today. We are also expecting the Prime Minister, Imran Khan, to address the nation in a short while, and of course it also is something that remains to be seen as to what will he be talking about. The different issues, of course, that are under discussion are with regards to the foreign conspiracy as well, and the no confidence motion the Prime Minister earlier also referred to in his rally on the 27th of March. We'll talk about the political situation of the country and also take a review of the number game as well with regards to the opposition and the government, as well as to who is in majority with the no confidence motion. For this and more, we have in the studios, of course, Farrukh, Pitafi and Raja Faisal, as always, and we will also be joined, we have actually also been joined online by two guests, Mr. Safiullah Ghori, he's a political analyst. We've also been joined by Javed Jadoon, who's also a political analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us in the show today. I'll start with you, Farrukh. When we talk about what is going on within the National Assembly, of course, with regards to the numbers, we have been reviewing it every day. Where does the opposition and the government stand today?
Right, Sana, as I told you yesterday, that the total number, according to the opposition's claims, was 175. Actually 177, but two of the MNAs were not supposed to actually appear. One because there wasn't any production order of Ali Wazir. Now that has been produced, and I think he's going to join in the next session. And the other one was an absconder in a murder case. But that gentleman also came back to Karachi. It was a sad sight because that person who is clearly involved in Nazim Jokhio's murder was being given a hero's welcome. But after that, today, the numbers that showed up out of 175, 172 at least, according to the claim and the attendance of the opposition was present. That number is big because that is the number that is game changer. But whether it was so or not, because there wasn't any voting today, we wouldn't know. Opposition's claim, by the way, keeps on increasing, and opposition keeps on claiming that because of the 19 dissidents from the PTI, their number has reached somewhere around 194, 195, but that still has to be seen until voting actually takes place. I think it is going to take place on Sunday.
All right. Mr. Javed, when we talk about, of course, the situation in the country and with regards to what is going on, all our eyes and ears are on what the Prime Minister is going to be talking about, of course, in a short while. He has referred to the foreign conspiracy as well, and he's talked about how that is going to change the way the opposition parties and also the disgruntled members of the PTI are going to react with regards to the no confidence motion. What are you expecting from the Prime Minister's address?
Thank you very much. But I don't believe Prime Minister is going to, as far as people are predicting, might resign. I think that is not happening. What could happen is Prime Minister could take the nation into confidence as far as the no confidence motion is concerned, the kind of conspiracies are being hashed, as according to the Prime Minister, and the letter of a foreign government written to the government of Pakistan, where the Prime Minister briefed the nation on several occasions that there's a very organized conspiracy to topple his government, democratically elected government. And I think I believe this is what he's going to say. Expecting more than that, whether the Prime Minister is going to resign, I don't believe so. Because now we have reached a point where the no confidence motion has been taken up by the National Assembly, and Sunday is the D-Day for both the parties. But I think the most important question for every common Pakistani is the change of the government. Is it going to bring about any radical change in the quality of life of the people of Pakistan? Is there going to be control in the price hike and the inflation and the issues being faced by the common man, because
That's a very, Javed Jatun sir, that is a very good point, because this parliament is still going to be a hung parliament no matter what, no matter who wins, who comes to power and who loses. But the question at this moment is the word that you used, the R word, the resign word. I understand that it keeps coming from the opposition or the media, but why is it that the government ministers and spokesmen are also addressing this word?
I think, as far as the government spokespersons are concerned and the government ministers are concerned, there seems to be complete chaos because of the impending challenge of the no confidence motion. I think very few people know what the Prime Minister is thinking right now. Most of the ministers are speaking as far as the no confidence motion is concerned, or any other related issues or policy matters are concerned. They just appear on the television screens and say whatever they want to say. I believe only Prime Minister and maybe a couple of his inner cabinet members know what exactly is going through the mind of the Prime Minister.
All right. Let me also come to Barrister Safiullah. When we talk about what the stance from the government has been so far with regards to no resignation from the Prime Minister, is there any other precedence or legality in delaying or cancelling the no confidence motion with regards to the Prime Minister? Can we actually have an event where we don't have voting? Is there any precedence for that, or any legal avenue that the government can explore without resignation?
Thank you, Sana. Thank you for having me. So there are two important points to make here. Firstly, the fact that this is one of those very few times when no confidence motion has been passed, has been raised against the Prime Minister. Yeah. So in the past, there was only Shaukat Aziz and Benazir, to my knowledge. Yeah. Only two Prime Ministers have gone through these motions. This is the only time when it looks like it might just pass, because the opposition seems to have the numbers. However, as far as your question is concerned, unfortunately, there is no other way for the Prime Minister. The Rule 32 of the National Assembly rules clearly stipulate that no other motion, no other action of business, nothing else can be discussed as long as there is a no confidence motion on the table. So
what about matters of national security?
Right. So if it is a matter for national security, that is then to be taken up by the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Defense then decides whether this is something that deserves deserves for the Parliament to be adjourned and matters to be continued. Otherwise,
hang on. Qualify this point. Are you saying that Defense Ministry can then decide and act on it and then send the Parliament in session where vote of no confidence is taking place home till the time the matter is resolved?
Allow me to explain. So under Article 5 of the Constitution, which defines loyalty, and then Article 6, which defines what treason is, we have a very fine line to draw between national security and the rules of business and the running of the state. Now, if at any point of time under Article 5, under various interpretations of the Supreme Court, if a matter that is pertinent to national security, then in that case, normal legal rules of business get trumped and national security would take precedence. So if there is really such a matter which involves national security, the military would step in at the right time. They would inform the people, they would inform the Speaker of the House that there is a national security issue that needs to be dealt with, and accordingly that would be seen. However, I feel like this entire matter is being given a color that may or may not be true, because we talk about the Official Secrets Act 1923, and there's a lot of talk going on about whether Imran Khan is being held back by the Official Secrets Act, or whether it is the Official Secrets Act that is encouraging him to go ahead and disclose to Pakistan whatever the contents of those letters are. There have been a lot of speculations. Many people have spoken about what that letter is. We are yet to see it. I don't know. Maybe you sitting in PTV have already seen what the letter is. However, this is now for the courts to decide whether this is a matter of national security or not, whether this is something that involves and invokes OTA, Official Secrets Act 1932 or not.
All right. So Barrister Safira, just to make it clear, there is a possibility for a no confidence motion tabled in the Parliament to be cancelled due to national security concerns.
If if there is sufficient threat, if it is proven without an iota of doubt. Rules of business can only be stopped when there is a national security issue that is then clearly stated by the chief of the army staff to via the Ministry of Defense to the speaker. So
So yes. So your simple answer is
there
yes.
is a yes.
No,
So the answer
complicated
can
answer
be
is
yes.
yes.
But in this case, I feel like it's being misconstrued, and it would probably
Sure.
not happen because the ISPR has spoken on what it deems to be the national security issue. The Supreme Court and the High Court of Islamabad have also commented on this. So I don't believe that this is a national security issue. Nobody has as yet stated it other than the Prime Minister himself.
All right. Javed Sahab, when we talk about, of course, the matter of resignation as well, this is something that has been pushed from the opposition. And then also today, with regards to the National Assembly session, they've also called for the no confidence voting to be held. And we also know that people have been talking about a moral obligation of the Prime Minister to resign in such a scenario. Do you think that this moral obligation is valid? And what sort of accountability is even there when we talk about moral obligations? Should this have been done in a democracy?
I mean, it is, I think, very much the personal choice of the Prime Minister to decide whether he would like to resign or not. Since it is in the National Assembly right now, the no confidence motion, and opposition is quite persistent that they would like to take up the issue of no confidence motion in the Parliament. So why should Prime Minister resign right now?
I'll just have to cut you
Because
short there. All right, please continue.
Sana, resigning would show the Prime Minister to be a weak Prime Minister, the weak leader, while his co-supporters who strongly believe that Prime Minister has been wronged, and they strongly believe that Prime Minister should stand up to all the forces which have joined hands to topple the democratically elected government of Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Insaf. So I believe he would like to play, as far as his core support is concerned, that is among the youth, the educated, urban, middle classes. I think, if you look at, if you go through the social media and the kind of comments and Sana Prime Minister made a very clever move where he tried to galvanize his core support base in Pakistan. I think he did successfully, addressing public gatherings one after another. He has tried to put forward his personal views, his point of view that he is being victimized. He is the victim of the corrupt elite in Pakistan. He basically, what he has been selling to the people of Pakistan, that all these major political parties, including Pakistan Tehreek, Pakistan Muslim League and Pakistan People's Party, they have a very corrupt leadership. They have looted the national resources of Pakistan. And the due rights of the people, the urban middle class, the educated people of Pakistan have been denied because there has been loot and plunder. I think many people have bought this story. But in the recent couple of weeks, Prime Minister made a very clever move. He went to the people and he tried to galvanize his co-support, and he did it very successfully. So why should he resign right now? Because this is not going to be a very popular move on part of the Prime Minister.
But the numbers say otherwise.
Well, the numbers, as far as the numbers are concerned, they will be played out in the National Assembly, not on the street or in the public rallies or public jalsas. Of course,
but that's where the no confidence motion is going to count as far as the voting is concerned.
Sana, I agree with you. As far as the numbers game is concerned, I think it is definitely against the Prime Minister. But
all right, let's also talk about the fact that
options.
whether or not there is a possibility for the no confidence motion being cancelled and early elections being held. Is this something that you think that the opposition is going to agree to? Or is this an offer on the table from the government as well?
Yes, I think this could be one of the possibilities, Sana. If there's some kind of understanding between Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leadership and the joint opposition, they can definitely withdraw the no confidence motion. And if there's some kind of a firm promises made by the Prime Minister.
But what kind of understanding would that be, since, of course, the opposition has the upper hand at the moment, as far as the numbers are concerned?
No, but Sana, what they really wanted, they wanted to topple the government. They wanted to remove the Prime Minister from the corridors of power. If that could be done, because it would lessen the acrimony and the kind of hostility which is going to be generated if the Prime Minister is de-seated because of the no confidence motion in the Parliament. And if there's some kind of understanding that if the opposition agrees to withdraw the no confidence motion and Prime Minister promises to dissolve the National Assembly and call the early elections, I think that would be the win-win situation for both the parties. because of the current political situation, which is, I think, quite hostile as far as the two political camps are concerned. So I strongly believe that this is going to lessen the animosity between the two parties, and there could be some guarantors as well. We understand that security establishment could play a role because of the continued political turmoil could have a very negative impact on Pakistan's security as well, because
Right.
economy
So
is
no,
at a
and that is a
standstill.
good
Our
point, and
economy,
that's why I
I had
wanted
a
to
question from
actually.
Farrukh.
No, I actually wanted to come to you because I've been speaking for quite a while. I wanted you to tell us whether such a move might be on cards at
Exactly.
all.
I think it will be on the cards, and the move I was about to ask you about, I think that would be on the cards as well. The move is, what if Prime Minister Imran Khan resigns, and then obviously 172 once again is the number which is required by any party to have their Prime Minister in. And Prime Minister Imran Khan once again, contests for Prime Minister election, and in that no party is able to gain 172 numbers. Would it be a tricky situation? Of course, they have to have 172 to become the Prime Minister, and if it doesn't take place, what would happen then? If we are in a sort of closed end and there is no other way, and the only way is that you have to go towards another election. Maybe, Farrukh, that would be the point or scenario where all of the parties would sit together and go towards the next election.
Look, this is really very interesting. I understand that it is PTI's first rodeo. It has been government in government for the first time. I think otherwise nobody can take one thing away from the whole scenario, and that is it is a hung parliament, and the people who are switching right now, they can always switch back as well. So at this moment, I don't know why everyone is so worried, because PTI has played its cards well. It has become a martyr already. If it allows the entire vote of no confidence to go forward, within a couple of months or perhaps even a month, the entire initiative can come back to the then opposition, that is PTI, and they can regain ground and create a lot of trouble for the incumbent then, right? And that could very easily happen. Unfortunately, it seems that because it is something new, I don't know how everybody wants to play it.
Right. And when we also talk about, of course, the concerns that have been raised by the government as well, we also know that the National Security Committee meeting was also held, and they have expressed concerns with regards to the kind of language that has been used in the letter. Javed sir, when we speak about that, and of course the stance of the opposition parties and perhaps any political party in the country has and should always be with regards to the national interest of Pakistan, which of course is supreme. So when we talk about the situation as it is, and if it is as dire as it is being talked about, do you think that the opposition stance will change and we don't even have to move towards a voting or an early election?
And if I could add in, if the content is as such, in which of course the content states that or you need to change your Prime Minister, if Prime Minister Imran Khan doesn't go, then of course your country would be facing dire consequences. If these sort of wordings are used, should it be considered as national security issue? And if it is, then obviously what would be the next step?
Honestly, I really don't believe that the said letter contains such a language which could pose a security threat to Pakistan. Because what we are mentioning or what we are saying, I mean, this is the implied meaning. What we are saying is the power could be, or the government could be the government of United States of America. I think there's got to be some kind of misunderstanding, because in diplomatic jargons there are always diplomatic cables and the views exchange. Because if you look at the situation, I'm talking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. India also stayed neutral, and Pakistan did the same thing. And the US State Department has been asking Indian government as well that, well, if you don't come up very clearly as far as the Russian position is concerned, and they have been telling them that you will have to face certain consequences. So I believe
Right.
that maybe it is the kind of interpretation that we have gone too far as far as, because let us not make a mistake that the USA and Pakistan, they have been very close allies, though there have been certain ups and downs as well. Pakistan
Right.
remained the most allied ally of the USA. So I think
Javed Jadoo
taking
said
the
that is
debate too far.
that is an important point. But with due respect, whatever we have heard or garnered from media reporting of this, the so-called letter or cable, as you are calling it, is essentially that it was, even if it was a diplomatic cable, it actually reported a démarche and a meeting where very severe language was used. So if that is so, this would amount to, especially if there is a mention of vote of no confidence. Don't you think that that will have a negative impact on the session that is going on?
Knowing the fact that in past statements like, will take you to Stone Age, these sort of statements were used.
Yes. I mean,
No, but they
yes,
were
exactly.
proclaimed, rebutted
I
actually.
would like to
But go
recall
ahead.
this particular statement when Colin Powell made this telephonic call to the leadership in Pakistan. And Farrukh, when I was in the White House, President Bush and President Musharraf, they were addressing the jointly addressing the media over there after their lengthy meeting at the White House. An American journalist asked President Bush that whether there was, despite the fact that President Musharraf mentioned this particular incident in his book as well, when an American journalist asked President Bush whether there was a telephone call to the leadership of Pakistan, telling that they would be sent into the Stone Age if they don't side with the American initiative as far as Afghanistan was concerned, with us or against us. I think there was a certain amount of deniability because President Bush never confirmed this particular telephonic call. So why a government should write something and give a proof of its involvement? Because some of the very irresponsible statements coming from some of the government functionaries that there could be an assassination plot as well against the prime minister. I think that is why I'm saying maybe it is being taken too far. Maybe we are debating. I mean, when I say maybe we are debating, I'm talking about the government's leadership.
Right,
What they are
right.
talking about is a very, very
Sana,
serious issue. And I really
Right.
don't know because we don't know what the contents are. Whatever has been told to the media or leaked out for the media. So
right.
if there's such
Absolutely,
kind of
sir.
a language,
Sana, with your
then
permission,
it
I'm
could
just
be.
going to use my experience as a producer. I've been a producer in the past to request both our guests to make slight changes.
Exactly.
Jadoon Saab, if you can slightly move away from the camera, sir, because half of your face is obscured by the screen.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much, sir. And
Thank you.
yeah, now it is proportionate, and now we can talk. Please go ahead.
Farrukh had
All
it
right,
as-
I wanted to come to Barrister Saviola as well. When we talk about this concern of national security, of course, and the kind of speculations, and so far the kind of information that we have is pointing towards it is, at the end of the day, a threat to Pakistan and perhaps not to the government or the Prime Minister directly. Does that sort of change in any way the way we look at the no confidence motion or things that evolve? Because at the end of the day, whoever is in power will be facing this threat to the country.
Right, Sana, I think one thing that we need to keep in mind is, so I believe that since you all work in PTV, you might have seen the contents of the letter. This was a US diplomat.
We are not diplomats, sir.
Let's make it
is
clear.
a
You've been trying to
classified
fish it
document.
out of us.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah, may I please speak? So this was a private conversation between a Pakistani diplomat and a US diplomat. The US diplomat being a third secretary who visited Pakistan during the OIC conference, saw some things, returned and had a conversation with his Pakistani counterpart. Not even a counterpart. In fact, the Pakistani person was the ambassador. He was a third secretary, so considerably lower official. And he put forward some of his concerns pertaining to whatever is happening in Pakistan. This is a routine assessment. This was sent by the ambassador back to the prime minister. This is something that ambassadors do on a routine basis. They send in their assessments. They send in whatever they've heard. They tell whatever they know, what they've found out from other people. And if prime ministers around the world, this is not just Pakistan, if prime ministers around the world started going around sharing their own foreign offices correspondences, their own foreign offices concerns on public forums, this would really jeopardize our foreign policy, because our ambassadors already have a very difficult time defending Pakistan. Pakistan has been on the center of the world, being targeted consistently for terrorism, for nuclear proliferation, for all sorts of international and made-up crimes. We are already suffering through FATF. This is all because the world views Pakistan in a particular manner, and it is a very tough job of the Foreign Office, of our ambassadors, to go out and try and protect Pakistan from the kind of flack that it receives because of its very powerful neighbor India.
Right,
Because
Safiola,
of the,
can you also confirm whether or not so far the information that has been revealed is not in violation of any act, the Secrets Act that you're referring to, or any other legal provision?
there has been a lot of, there have been a lot. So from whatever we understand, from whatever we know for a fact that this is not a violation. A violation under the Official Secrets Act has to be a violation of Article 6, which means it must be treason. If the Prime Minister believes that this is something that he is doing in the interest of the country, then it is not a violation. However, if the Prime Minister himself is being a traitor to the country, at the end of the day, the OSA 1932 is strongly tied in with the Constitution's Article 6. Every OSA trial has the charge of
so does this, just one quick
Who
question.
declassifies the letter, by the way? Who has the authority to declassify it?
Court.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, this is something that the Foreign Office decides. This is just a private cable between the
Foreign
ambassador.
Office comes under the Prime Minister, does it not?
Now, letters such as these, which are declassified with the passage of time, when there is time to these things, after a particular time when their relevance is no longer that much, maybe sometimes it's 10 years, 20 years, they do get declassified by the Foreign Office itself. What I want you guys to understand is how much more difficult this makes the life of all ambassadors around the world who are representing Pakistan. Because
I just want to quickly also ask one thing, Faisal. Safiola, when we talk about that the violation has not been done with reference to the intention of the Prime Minister, then does this mean that the entire content of the letter can also be released by the PM without violation of the Secrets Act?
I'll have a comment later on.
I am 100% convinced that the Prime Minister can reveal the entire content. Now, the Islamabad High Court has already stated this. This is something that is not my belief. Justice Atar Minallah, when he was, writ petition was filed recently in the Islamabad High Court, and Justice Atar Minallah was asked to stop Imran Khan from releasing the contents of the letter because they would violate the integrity of Pakistan. To which Justice Atar Minallah stated that Imran Khan is the representative of the people. He is empowered. He's not some random person who's just sitting there on a seat for no reason at all. He's been chosen to do what is best for Pakistan. And so at that point of time, Atar Minallah stated that if it is detrimental to our national security, then Imran Khan should not and would not release it, but did not direct Imran Khan to do anything. Just stated that he has confidence that if it is detrimental to our interests, Imran Khan will not. At the end of the day, that is what matters. Do we believe that?
Can I also come in here? Sana, Urban, and I'm sure Jadoon Saab has also been covering foreign policy for quite some time, so have I. One aspect that is very important to remember, and that was pointed out by Safi as well, it is going to, if you release the entire letter, it actually is going to reveal the modalities of our cable system and our communication between our Foreign Office and our embassies. That itself becomes a huge liability. So I hope everyone who is hoping that the actual letter is not revealed is correct. I think that is a very legitimate concern. I heard from the people around the said ambassador in contention that it has created a lot of consternation for him as well, and especially the said embassy as well, because they are sitting in the foreign land and they have the concerns as well. Absolutely. But having said that, Prime Minister, I think, has the authority to declassify the document if he wants to.
All right.
Yeah, Jadoon Saab, I believe, I mean, Pakistan, obviously, since Prime Minister Imran Khan took the office, the premier office, Pakistan has been facing problems in terms of economy. Obviously, Pakistan was, grey listed in the FATF, and there were certain other, swords hanging on the necks of Pakistan's economy. Could we say that if we look at the Right to Information Act, and through that, of course, the 20-year-old CIA cables everyone can go through them. And of course, the modus operandi which was being used in Latin America, being used in Africa and Far East, there were instances that regime was changed through different tactics. One of the tactics was to economically tighten the noose. So could we say that since 3 years of Prime Minister Imran Khan taking the office, the acts or actions were already been taken, and Pakistan's economy was being squeezed since then, and now obviously if we go through the content, the consequences, or if Prime Minister Imran Khan goes away, then you will get some sort of relief, and if he doesn't go, then of course there will be consequences. Could we say that this has already been happening and this has exposed now?
Well, I think as far as Prime Minister Imran Khan is concerned, he had excellent working relations with President Trump. And the two countries, or the two leaders, enjoyed very cordial ties and very cordial relations. The way Prime Minister conducted himself in Washington, he came back and very very, I think, happily, he announced that it was a very successful visit to Washington, and the benefits would start coming to Pakistan. All changed after President Biden took over in Washington and the Democrats were at the helm in America. I think there's got to be some kind of misunderstandings between Prime Minister Imran Khan. I think one of the reasons which was really played very badly on media was that why President Biden wasn't making a telephone call to Prime Minister Imran Khan, and even media started discussing. I think this really widened the gulf between the two leaders in Washington and Islamabad. And most probably, Prime Minister Imran Khan took it as some kind of a personal sort of insult that the leader of the free world wasn't making a telephone call while he made a telephone call to the Indian leadership as well. And even in the past, there was a practice whenever a new president took over in Washington, they always reached out to the regional countries in South Asia, and Pakistan was always one of them. Only this time around, if Farrukh could recall any other instance, but I really can't recall any other instance where the new American president didn't make a telephone call to the leader in Pakistan. So I think probably it was one of the reasons that they started, the gulf started increasing between Prime Minister Imran Khan and President Biden as well. And secondly, I think the most important, event which really changed the dynamics of ties between Islamabad and Washington was Prime Minister's visit to Moscow. I think the optics, which in my personal opinion, President Putin played it very, very shrewdly. He is a foxy leader. The meeting, which was intended only for 40 minutes, it was extended to 3 hours without any substance. At the same particular time, the Russian troops were marching into Ukraine, waging a war against a sovereign country in Europe. I think he used
Hang on. I have the letter, the statement from the NSC, right? After that happened, and there is a conclusion in it. First of all, it condemned, expressed grave concern at the communication, terming the language used by the foreign official as undiplomatic. And then the committee concluded that the communication amounted to blatant interference in the internal affairs of Pakistan by the country in question. So this is the statement that was put out a little while ago. I think it is before you as well, Sana.
Right. Barrister Safiullah, what do you make of that? Is this also something that you were saying as part of the routine that you've seen before, that we talked about before, with reference to the letters that have been coming from the ambassadors as well? Or do you think the conclusion points to something more grave than that?
I honestly feel like we're giving individual persons too much credit for who they are. I don't feel it has anything to do with the personality of Joe Biden or Imran Khan, and much more to do with regional interests that they have now with each other. The United States, United States saw Pakistan as an important ally as long as they held sway over Afghanistan. Now that they don't have any interest in Afghanistan anymore, they've withdrawn. Pakistan has lost its value. Instead, India has gained value because of the Quad. Joseph Biden is the kind of person who forgets the name Ukraine and says Iran instead. He's the kind of person who forgets his wife's name and calls Kamala Harris the first lady. We can't expect anything from a person who's going, well, who's usually, or is at least widely being considered as being at least somewhat senile. And Imran Khan, once again, we're giving too much credit to him. I don't think on an international playground, Pakistan and therefore our Prime Minister matter as much. I don't believe that their interest in whatever our governance is, whatever our internal politics is, especially no confidence motions, is as much as we are playing it out to be within our country.
All right. I have a follow-up question for Javed Saab, which I asked before as well. So we all have time to ask questions.
Allow me to just give you one more update.
Yes.
What the NSC has decided, according to this communique. Pakistan is going to present a démarche through proper channels to that country, complaining and protesting whatever happened here.
Right. Javed Saab, just a follow-up to what you were earlier talking about. You said something about Putin being clever and pushing the meeting forward as well. Of course, we understand that from the Pakistani side, this was a working bilateral visit as well, which may have been perceived differently otherwise. But do you think that from the Russian side, are you saying that this was planned to frame Pakistan and Imran Khan?
No, not frame Pakistan, because that was the most difficult moment for President Putin sitting in Moscow, unleashing his military might against a small European country, which was backed by NATO and America. So I think he wanted to use the optics for the world to see that, well, it is something very normal. He's not perturbed. He's not sort of afraid of it. So he used those optics while sitting with and what he said, I really don't believe that would amount to belittling Pakistan. Pakistan is a nuclear state, a country of 200 million people. Saying that it is not an important country, not an important player on the world stage, would be kind of a demeaning for Pakistan and Pakistani people, because Pakistan is one of the 7 nuclear countries in the world. Pakistan as a military, which is the 6th largest and the most powerful in the world. So why sort of look at ourselves in a demeaning manner and say that we don't matter on the world stage? Prime Minister of Pakistan, or the President of Pakistan, whatever the name is, he represents the 200 million people of Pakistan. And Pakistan is one of the most important regional players and the world players as
absolutely.
Well. If Pakistan,
yes, Faisal, you have a question for Vice
Barrister Safi, I just wanted to ask, could we say that the difference between the bilateral relations of Pakistan with America when Trump was there and when Biden was there, the difference is that if we talk about Trump and American establishment, they were not on the same page. And if we talk about Biden and the American establishment, they are on the same page. And there is another episode we need to talk about, and that is of Afghanistan. Whatever happened in Afghanistan, there is a trust deficit between America and Pakistan when it comes to Afghanistan. Should we say that?
Well, yes, of course. I just like to sort of, I want to clarify here. I obviously don't ever mean to demean my own country. Pakistan's my country. I am a proud Pakistani. But we need to have a hard, realistic look at where we stand. We might have a nuclear power. We might be a nuclear power. North Korea is also a nuclear power. They keep making this. Militaries are at the very most on an international stage are things that have a nuisance power. Nobody wants a nuclear power going ballistic. They see that as a problem. But what really matters when it comes to influence is being an economic power. The Pakistan is not on the level of economy that even one United States state is, let alone all 52 of them. It's nowhere near where Bangladesh is today, which is half its size. So, I mean, a country that's always out with a begging bowl does not have those kind of choices that we would expect, despite the fact that it might have, a weapon that could, to a degree, intimidate people. But we have that weapon as a weapon of self-defense. We do not have that weapon as a means of intimidating others. And I hope that Pakistan never resorts to that either. I hope that we continue to focus on developing good bilateral relationships rather than trying to threaten people with our military and with being a nuclear power. Regarding what was said about Pakistan, and of course, it's the change in policy between Trump and Biden. That's very obvious. That has to do with the U.S. establishment. You're absolutely correct. It's not just the U.S. establishment and Trump. It's also historically the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The Republican Party has had historically good ties with Pakistan, whereas the Democratic Party, we have seen that in Obama's time as well. The difference was clear between Obama and Bush and the way they treated Pakistan. So there is a clear difference. Of course, there is also.
But despite that, you know, when Joseph Biden was vice president, Pakistan actually presented Sitara Pakistan to him.
Yeah. And apparently Obama's roommate was a Pakistani, and we had hoped that Obama would have tremendous love for Pakistan.
No, but don't trivialize the point, sir. I was referring to a vice president coming to Pakistan and being presented a medal.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that matters a lot. That is something that should hold value. However, as far as international big economic games are concerned, that's what the real problem is. When the U.S. trade war against China comes in, that's when things start mattering. That's when they start deciding whether they want an ally in the region or not. When matters pertaining to who controls the South China Sea, when matters pertaining to who controls the oil resources in the Gulf, this is where decisions are made, and it's not based on militaries, it's based on economies that decisions are made on an international scale. I tend to believe that because I have a more Marxist view of the world. Maybe that's why I look at the world through red-colored lenses. But I do believe that realpolitik and a lot of international analysts, international relations analysts would think of these as very important matters and would not concentrate on the personalities of individuals as being the deciding factors.
Absolutely. Safi, you know what, remember that idea that you and I should do a podcast, capitalism versus socialism. I think that we can do someday as well, right?
Let's do that.
Yeah. All right, Javed Sahab, I have one more question to ask with reference to the conspiracy, of course, that has been talked about. We understand there is talk with regards to horrible or dangerous consequences for Pakistan. What sort of consequences are really going to amount to a national security concern? Can they also be in terms of economic consequences? Will they also count as a national security concern? Where are we going to divide that line?
That's a very good question, Sana. I think when they talked about consequences for Pakistan, I think primarily what they meant was the economic consequences, because Pakistan heavily depends on aid from foreign countries and foreign institutions, and America is probably one of the biggest donors to the World Bank, to the IMF, to the Asian Development Bank, so on and so forth. So given that particular fact, Pakistan definitely can suffer because of American indifference towards Pakistan. Beyond this particular incident. But I think most importantly, Sana, now we need to repair the ruptured ties between Islamabad and Washington, because America is one of our closest allies. We have a lot of trade, commerce, and economic ties with America and its European partners as well. So as far as Russia is concerned, we are trying to forge good relations with Moscow, and there is nothing wrong in that. Pakistan is an independent country. Pakistan can go out and forge relations with any other state. But having said that, Pakistan mustn't sort of go beyond the red lines and sort of go for repairing the diplomatic ties. And if there is some kind of misunderstanding, that can be removed, because of a foreign office, the people sitting there, the very good people, good diplomats sitting in the foreign office, they can reestablish the communication channels with Washington. And I strongly believe that this is not the time to go beyond the rhetoric and ratchet up this confrontation between Islamabad and Washington, Farrukh.
Right. Javed Jadoon Sahab, very quickly regarding this demarche that Pakistan is going to actually send to the country in question. We are not sure whether it is the very specific country that we have been debating or not. But Pakistan, this is the decision that has been taken in the committee. Now the question is whether it is going to be the end of the story or whether it is going to further escalate. What can you tell about that?
I think, yes, Farrukh, very, very good question, because I think this is the way out. This is the way out of the situation, this crisis. And whoever decided at the National Security Committee meeting that we should write a démarche to whatever country you said, but I strongly believe it is America. So I think this is the way forward, this is the way out, and this is the diplomatic resolution of the dispute or issue. And I think I believe the tensions between Pakistan and that particular state will be decreasing in the coming days and weeks. And excellent outcome of the National Security Committee meeting. Very sane people sitting there, sane advice, and ultimately, I think sanity has prevailed. And I believe that from tomorrow
All right.
onward, there would be
Jadun sir,
less rhetoric,
very quickly,
more
the country
substance.
you strongly believe about it is America. That country and the country, our eastern neighbor, don't you think that they're, coming to Pakistan for talks or bringing Pakistan on the table for talks between both of them, bilateral talks, that is only possible if Imran is not holding the premier office, because this is what their demand is. That's how the cable is showing us.
A light interlude before that. Faisal's belligerence actually reminds me of another gentleman, Majid Nizami, who used to say that we have actually made the nuclear bomb. Just use it and send me along with it. Jadun Saab, go ahead, please.
No, I think as far as diplomatic engagement is concerned, it is a very much ongoing process between different states at different levels. As Gori, I think, pointed out at the outset, that it was a very low-level diplomat, if we believe it is Washington, and on the other side was a Pakistani ambassador, a very seasoned diplomat. As far as the diplomatic cable is concerned, it is definitely a very confidential correspondent. He can make this correspondent under the rules with the president, with the prime minister, with the foreign minister, as well as with the foreign secretary. So I believe the correspondence was made with the foreign secretary, and that was the level and should have stayed there. And
all right, Javed
should have
Saab,
been
we'll have to take a short break over here, and we will continue the discussion shortly. Stay tuned.